Streaming on YouTube. Is that what
Yeah. And then record here. And what I, because it wasn't sharing properly earlier. Okay, and I'm just gonna share this link on my Facebook real quick. That way, people can try to jump on if they want to. Okay. All right, we're doing it. We're live. I am here with Ed Latimore. It is a sincere pleasure. Um, I have been following Ed for a little over a year, maybe almost 2 years now. He's got a really cool Twitter feed, and he's got books out. He is a writer. He's now a retired heavyweight boxer. He's been through a lot. He's a military veteran. He's a keynote speaker. He's been through a lot, and I just want to take a minute. We got just enough for maybe 30, 40 minutes today, but I want to get to know him a little bit and um, get into maybe a little bit of the stoicism, um, since he's like the stoic street smart guy, and get into a little bit of that background if we can, and just yeah, maybe some of the philosophy behind how he went the way that he did in life and all that. So Ed, let me allow you to introduce yourself, and then we'll get into it.
Yeah, so you pretty much touched everything there is, no, not everything, but most of the things there are to say
The
about
overview.
me. I try to deliver what I've experienced the
Right.
hard way, or what I've learned the hard way, and I break it down so people can learn it the easy way. That's kind of the motto for my blog and my writing and everything that I put out there.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope I do a good job. I think I do. I
Yeah,
hope I
you
do
do.
a good job. So, and I have a good effect on. I try to use what I've gone through to help people learn lessons,
Mm-hmm.
because I think that my life has been unique enough, not
Right.
that unique, but certainly unique enough in many of the paths I took and the things I went through, and kind of the ups and downs, and even what I'm going through now. And
Mm-hmm.
I try to take what I can and give it to people.
Yeah, and then there's a couple others that now I was able to pull up my notes that I didn't even get to. You're into chess, which is something that I'm really into, although not at your level probably, but I do love the
I'm
game.
I'm I'm not that strong.
Okay.
I just really love the game. I'm a
Yeah,
big
yeah,
fan. I'm putting a lot of energy into my game lately. We'll see
yeah.
how strong I can get. But I kind of have this belief that I can
Mm,
become a title player, which is like
there you go.
relatively rare for someone to start taking the game
Later in
seriously
life,
at my
yeah.
age. Well, we'll see. It'll make for a good
Hmm.
story, right? All
Yeah,
these
yeah.
things make
That
for good stories.
I like how you think that way. You think in narrative form of always like, if nothing else, this will make a good story.
Well,
Uh,
yeah, and then there's certain things. I mean, you always want to weigh out the probability of success versus the probability of failure, and
right,
also,
right,
what do you gain versus what do you lose, make it a nice expected value problem.
right,
Otherwise, you end up taking that advice and misapplying it, and
right,
the
right.
results can be disastrous
Yeah, yeah.
when you do.
So, and then the other one that you only talked about just a little bit on some of your other videos is the sobriety. And the reason I think that's important is because, okay, we're in a age that's a little bit all over the place. Like the church isn't like super involved in the world like it used to be, and politics are all over the place. And I feel like, and not a lot of people are involved in the whole like sobriety mindset. And I feel like more people need to be involved in those kind of groups or communities, or at least that kind of 12-step philosophy or mindset. And so what has been your experience with that, and how do you think that other people can benefit from that kind of mindset and community?
Well, the thing is, sobriety is one of those things that you only find after you have an issue, right?
Right, right.
The old joke is that alcohol is the one drug people think you have a problem if you don't do it,
Right,
and
right.
there is some truth to that. Now, for whatever reason, whether it be, I think my issue with alcohol was multifaceted. We're
Mm,
dealing with internal demons. We're dealing
right,
with,
right,
and well, they're all internal demons, but we're dealing with impulse control. We're dealing with
right, right,
portion control, moderation. We're
right, right.
dealing with loneliness.
Hmm.
We're dealing with trauma. All these things kind of come together and
Right.
make this perfect storm. So, but here's the thing about that.
Mm,
Do you hear all that goes into it? And the main symptom, the most destructive symptom in my life was my relationship with alcohol. So what did
right,
I
right.
have to do? I get over this, and then I start slowly but surely dealing with a lot of those other issues that I had tried to escape from or thought I
Mm,
could ignore. But turns out you really are only as successful as your worst habit.
right, right,
And
right.
mine was catching up to me, and I'm really fortunate that I made a big change because
Yeah,
man,
yeah.
it'll be 7 years this December, and I
Mm,
cannot tell. I mean, my life does not look anything like what it looked like prior to when I was drinking. Like
yeah,
I
yeah.
call it. It's almost like December 23rd is another birthday, right?
Yeah.
Is December 23rd, 2013, because that's when I really started living. Because when you remove something like alcohol, what you do is you remove an excuse.
Right.
It's not just getting rid of a problem; you also get rid of an excuse.
Yeah, because
Because and
it's
I
like
was
an escape from other problems.
yeah, and I can no longer say. And then
Mm,
this was a big deal to me because when
mm,
I got sober, because I had just met my girl, who I'm still with
mm, mm.
now. I
Yeah,
had just enrolled in the enlisted in the military, enrolled in
yeah, yeah.
school, and my professional career was starting to take off in boxing. And I said, okay, I got a really good chance to make something of my life.
Right,
I've been
right.
messing it up all this other time. It's time to put the booze down, and we'll see how far we can go. Because if I mess this
Mm,
up, I want it to be because I messed it up, not because there was a demon that I couldn't deal with, that I couldn't slay.
right, right,
And
right.
it made a big difference. Remember, I love my life. I'm hanging out right here, and no cares. And I mean, yeah, you got to work and you got to hustle and do
Yeah,
things,
yeah,
but
yeah.
it's all on my terms.
Right,
I'm gonna
right,
go to
right.
sleep tonight when I want to, wake up tomorrow when I want to, and it's
Not
been like
hungover.
that. Yeah, right. Not hungover, very
Yeah, yeah.
important. And I'm gonna do it, and I'm gonna do it and help people along the way. So I'm having a good time, and I think it's all because I decided to quit, get sober.
Yeah, and on that note, it's like, and the reason I mentioned like, hey, we could all use something like that, even if we don't have like an alcohol problem, is because now it seems like alcohol maybe isn't as popular of a drug as it used to be, uh, but people are making other things into that, especially like just being addicted to our phones and being addicted to outrage and being addicted to all these
Yeah,
things that are
that's
just escapes from reality.
you learn quite a lot about the nature of, I guess, distraction and
Yeah, yeah,
diversion, and that's really what a lot of addiction is.
right.
There's obviously other elements to it, particularly in the case of physiological addictions,
Mm,
but a lot of these things are distractions. They're distractions from ourselves. When
right, right.
most people cannot sit in a room. They can't do anything without their phone, for example, you were talking about.
Yeah, yeah,
Because the idea of resting alone with your thoughts, or even putting your mind on something. I remember when I played in a chess tournament,
yeah,
the first one, I was like amazed at how long, like I put my mind on a problem,
yeah, yeah,
and I had something to think about. And I had something to think about. It's not like I was wandering my thoughts, and it was exhausting. So
yeah,
imagine what a regular person goes through,
yeah.
trying to think about their daily life, reflecting on problems, solve these problems. It's a lot easier to escape into social media, to escape into
Right, right.
whatever the outrage of the day is, instead of
Yeah.
taking that same energy and focusing it back on yourself.
Hmm. Um, and then I, I feel like yeah, it's a lot of it too. It's a matter of, it's almost like energy distribution. where normally we want to escape any kind of pain. Like that's the thing with our culture now. It's just like a feel good
Yeah.
culture. Do what feels good. And so in that we'll use a lot of escapes. But the, I guess, mature thing, and maybe this is part of what is your, would maybe pivot to your stoicism philosophy,
Yeah.
but it's about taking our energy and focusing it on accomplishing something, even if it's just like sharpening ourselves up or improving ourselves or whatever.
Yeah, people need a purpose.
Yeah, yeah.
A purpose really. Here's the best way to think about a purpose. A
Mm-hmm.
purpose is like a train track,
Right,
and
right,
it's not just any train track. It's a train track going through treacherous, uneven, dangerous terrain.
right, right, right,
And a purpose keeps you on the rail and it gets you through that.
right, right,
Without that train track, without that purpose, it's going to be a really hard. That road is not paved.
right, right,
There's predators out there. There
right.
are all
Yeah.
kind of the elements
Train
are going
robbers.
to, So
Yeah.
when you have a purpose, when you have something that you put your energy on, and
Mm-hmm.
it gives you something to wake up for. It
Mm-hmm.
gives you something to put your energy on instead of nonsense around you. It takes you farther. It takes you farther, and it makes you happier because your energy is not focused on something that is not only ever changing but does
Mm-hmm.
not give you anything back. Like when if I go and focus my outrage
Mm.
on politics and focus my
Yeah.
energy on raging about politics,
Yeah. It's
well,
so draining.
what do I get out of it? Like,
Right, right,
that's a question no one wants to ask themselves, but it's a very important one. What do you
right,
get
right,
out of what you get angry about? What do you get out of what you get happy about? I'll tell you what
right.
I get out of it. I get. First of all, I'm hardly ever angry. I just
Yeah,
it's
you
not a
seem very
foreign
zen.
emotion. It's not so much zen, but you know what it is, man.
Yeah,
I've been through quite a lot, especially the way
yeah,
I
yeah.
grew and it just takes a lot.
Right, right,
I have my triggers like anyone else. Like I really hate when people waste my time, and
right.
I hate seeing abuses of power. People, particularly people, take advantage of someone weaker
Right,
or
right.
and unable to defend themselves. But for the most part, nah, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
because I'm always focused on a solution.
Right, right, right.
It's very hard to be angry and see how you can take this thing and make it
Mm-hmm.
better, or rather take this thing and make yourself better.
Mm.
When you have that mentality, it's very difficult to get angry. But
Right, right.
but I'm happy about a bunch of other stuff. I'm happy about everything I put my energy into is it's
Yeah.
like a seed, and it has the ability to give me something back.
Yeah, I feel like what's important too on this note is that what helps people, and most don't ever figure this out, which is kind of what we were saying, is one, we want to have something to run to, but then we also want to have something to run from. So in other words, we
Right.
want to look back and say, there's like the worst version of myself. I want to make sure the worst version of myself is always in the rear view, and then something to aspire to that purpose of the best version of myself is always,
Absolutely.
coming up, and that gives us a dual motivation. We're being pushed to run away from something at the same time as drawn to run to something, and most people never figure that out, and that's why they're just like wandering around kind of aimlessly. But I feel like that's a lot of what you get at with your writing that I've seen so far, and even just your Twitter post is just we can always find those ways to stay motivated just by running from
Yeah.
the worst and running towards the best.
Exactly. I always say, for any type of change to happen, you need you need something to be running away from and something to be running towards. That's
Right,
been
right,
my experience. I was running away from the old person who I was, and I was
right, right.
running towards a new person, a better life, something
Mm,
easier. Like I do it even now. It seems far, like if you look at it on the calendar, it is far away. I'm like 8 years removed from like worrying about how I was gonna even pay my little cheap $200 a month rent. But in my
yeah.
mind, I'll never forget. the incapable person that I was, and
Right, right, right.
things that I couldn't do. And you never forget that. That
Right,
sting
right.
never goes away, because you need that to fuel you. You need that to push you forward.
Hmm.
To make a big, like, and it makes a big difference. It makes such a big difference
Yeah.
when you have been to the bottom and you're climbing out, as
Hmm.
opposed to things going well.
It's a topic I've been talking about a little bit lately, and these, even one I just recorded earlier, where most people, in fact, even like myself when I was younger, and just kind of like the general feel good culture is, when you go through a failure in life, oh, just get back on the horse, like just get back to hustling, and there's some good to that, but when we go through a tough time, whether we uh, fail at a sport, or we fail at a business or a relationship or whatever, I feel like there's so much to be learned, and this is, I think, one thing that you really incorporated in your story and your writing and everything, is to make the most of those failures, because otherwise those are missed opportunities if you don't find ways to incorporate those in your life and your motivation and
Oh
your
yeah,
writing and everything else.
right. You don't. People forget, man. Failure is a real gift.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
exactly.
you get, like, you are attempting to do a thing and it didn't work out, and you get some feedback. You didn't
Hmm.
die, right? You're still
Hmm.
here. You didn't fail spectacular. You didn't make the ultimate failure, in other words.
Right,
Um,
right.
and so you get a chance to not only go back at it, but go back at it with a bit of knowledge that you did not have before, and that your competitors and your peers will not have. You have a chance to get ahead. Failure is a great gift, and it gets to show you what you're made out of. You really get
Yeah,
to, uh, because here's the cool thing, right? I mean, it'd be real nice if everything went well in life, or would it be? Because
yeah.
things never, like there is always going to be some kind of turmoil, and every failure you overcome, that's just a little bit more confidence you have in yourself to overcome the next failure or hardship.
This is kind of on the subject of something that I heard you say in another podcast. I don't know, it might have been a year or so ago,
Yeah,
when I was with the Voice of Reason, but you were talking about the scene in the Matrix toward the end, where the Agent Smith or whatever is talking to Morpheus, I guess, and maybe you can
yeah.
elaborate on this, but he's like, in the first version of the Matrix, we we
Oh,
we we made it all perfect and there are no problems, and people rejected it. And and I don't know, maybe you can expound on that, but there's a lot of philosophy to that people need problems, and if we don't have problems, we kind of like lose it. So we want to make the most of our problems, because they're just kind of the nature of reality that's necessary.
you know, um, that idea of needing a problem,
Mm-hmm.
that I really think that's a feature of the universe rather than a bug of our individual society. And
Yeah,
one of the
yeah.
reasons I say that is a book I read a while ago. I probably should reread it. It's just really interesting. It's called The Evidence of Absence.
Mm-hmm.
And the basic premise of the book is that the reason why we have food allergies is because our immune system evolved in a very hostile environment.
Right, right, right.
We're so clean now compared to even 100 years ago. And with this cleanliness, we've eliminated things that the immune system was always dealing with. Well, think of it like temps, you know. So the
Mm-hmm.
immune system doesn't down evolve or devolve. It instead is like, well, what do I attack now? Oh,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
looks interesting. Nuts, and it'll go
Yeah, yeah.
after that instead.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, and the author went and infected himself with tapeworm and got rid of a lot of his allergies.
What?
Yeah,
That's
or hook, it was,
dedication.
or hookworm. It was hookworm. Went to Mexico,
Sure.
infected himself with hookworm, and because his
Wow.
body now had his immune system had something to focus on, it stopped worrying about pollen, which is like harmless. So
Yeah, yeah.
like I always think about that, and that quote from the Matrix, that scene in the
Yeah,
Matrix where Agent Smith is going, the first iteration of the Matrix was
yeah.
perfect, and you rejected it. We lost tons of fields, so we had to make it
All
with
these batteries
lava.
gone.
Yeah. so it's important to remember that
Mm-hmm.
the problem is not really a sign that something is wrong per se.
Mm-hmm.
It's just how it is designed. Things are like, I think that's like what is that? That's the third law or the second law of thermo, one of those. Uh that stuff breaks down,
Yeah,
and
entropy.
you have to continue to upkeep it. That's just part of the universe.
Yeah, yeah. Information is never lost. Things, they always go toward entropy, but then they evolve, and like that's one. I forget the exact. I don't know if it's a science fiction movie or whatever, but they talked to one of the big sort of like science fiction ideas is if entropy can be overcome, like that's like a big AI problem.
Yeah.
But on that idea, it's like it's actually better the way it is in a lot of ways, in that there's entropy, but because there's entropy, there's evolution. Because we break
Yes.
down, we evolve. If there was no breakdown, there wouldn't be the evolving. So that's it is. It's like a feature, not a bug, to the universe, the way that the world works and the way that we work in the world, is that we need things to break down. So it will cause us to evolve, because if we had a perfect world,
Yeah,
uh yeah,
we're able to see this perfectly in like the
yeah,
animal kingdom, right? Selection
yeah, yeah,
pressure. That's like the
right, right,
official word for it.
right,
Selection
right,
pressure. You
right,
either
right, right.
gonna evolve or you're gonna be, selected out from the pressure. That's
Yep,
peace
no more of your genes. Yep.
out.
And let's see, you're oh so you're also I know in some of your interviews, you weren't sure if you should call yourself a physicist or what, but you can just call yourself. You got a degree in physics, and that started with like a little like a projectile experiment. So you're basically a rocket scientist, right?
Oh man, dude, dude. You know what's crazy? I actually got the rocket science stuff horrible on mechanics. I want to like
Oh
take
yeah,
it again actually,
yeah,
but no, it's I have a very challenging degree. I'll probably
yeah. Mm,
uh get a higher level degree at some point, just because I personally enjoy studying challenging things, and there's
mm,
probably nothing really more challenging than physics and engineering, the way it makes you think. So
right,
I'll
right.
probably do it again, and because I just want to, right?
Mm,
But here's the thing: here are two things I won't do. I
mm,
won't do it until I have my passive income at like six figures, where I'm like I
mm.
don't have to think about it. That's going to kind of roll in, so I don't have to think about
There you
money
go.
in the slightest. And also, I probably won't do it in the United States.
Okay.
Our college system is whack, man. Like
Yeah.
they just charge,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's only
and
going up.
yeah, and what do you get? Like you don't even
Yeah.
really get. But I can
Yeah.
go to Europe.
We were talking about that a couple weeks ago. How, what was it? Elon Musk had a quote recently where he said, "In school, all you learn is how to, I don't know, have fun and do chores. Anything else you can just teach yourself. You know,
right.
there's
Like
nothing." Yeah,
Elon taught himself how to build rockets or something to that
yeah, yeah,
effect. Like
yeah,
that's not that ain't nothing about it's not a small feat.
yeah. Uh,
Well,
what one big thing that you're into is you talk a lot about out hustling on Crackhead, but I never really heard where that came from. So what's the
so you see,
nature of?
okay, so my original quote, I was remembering something when when I was a kid.
Yeah,
We were like going. My mom was walking with us to the bus stop or something.
yeah,
And she was like, "Oh, I seen that crackhead. He been out here for 4 days hustling for rock." And that always just stuck with me, because in my
yeah,
mind, He was he was he was out there
The
for
ultimate
4 days
hustler.
straight. Yeah.
Yeah,
So like now I don't know if he was, but in my mind, in my story, that is how it went. Now that's just kind of caught on. Like
yeah,
people are identifying and understanding the crackhead hustle, man, and that's a
yeah,
cool thing.
yeah. Because it helps to have those, I guess, visuals and metaphor. Because I don't know. So often we're just like, go hustle. Uh, but
Yeah,
I think
right. Like
everybody can relate to that. How would a crackhead hustle? Like WWJD, or more like,
yeah,
what would a
like
crackhead do?
yeah, and it's really and it's a funny visual because it's counterintuitive.
Right,
Is
right.
that's the beauty. It's counterintuitive. You hear it and you go, well, I don't normally think of crackheads as hustlers, but I guess they have a point. You know, you never really hear a
Yeah, yeah,
crackhead complain. You know, they figure out how to get it done, and then the mythology was born.
yeah. So we talked a little bit about your whole eclectic background, I guess we'll say. Uh, but it seems like you are you're definitely entrepreneurial, and you're an intuitive, like creative, open person. And another thing that I talk about sometimes is how people of that mindset, more intuitive, open to experience, creative, a lot of times that's what the problem that they run into is it's hard to establish an identity, and then it's hard to monetize that. And now you went through this eclectic background, and that's really cool, and you're turning it into a story. Your whole like branding and everything is really
Yeah.
cool. But how has that been how have you overcome that challenge of being really creative and entrepreneurial and still finding a way to establish an identity and ultimately turn it into income?
Um. You know, what's the best way to put it? I never really look at it as a challenge, you know,
Yeah, yeah,
and maybe I think part of that is it's being aware, you know, and being smart enough to kind of know that, like, okay, here I
yeah.
am, this person. I'm not too bad with words. Let me write this story. I've got some lessons, you know, in life, but
Mm-hmm.
but at the end of the day, I just did and will continue to do what
Mm-hmm.
I enjoy. You know, it's
Right,
not
right, right.
really it's never. I don't want to say it's never about making a dollar,
Mm-hmm.
but that is really not my motivation. If it was, I mean, there are a lot of different things I could have done
Right, right, right.
so far to make a lot more money. But you know, I'm really kind of I'm like, all right, you know, well, how it happens is how it happens,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm having a good time putting the good content out, and
Right.
people get a lot from it, and it's allowed me to explore and be me. Now you gotta have the mentality. You gotta be like, how am I going to do this and get paid for it?
Right,
Otherwise, you're
right.
gonna have to go do something else. But now that part, you know, I want to say, here's the thing. This is what happens when you have a natural kind of thought process about a thing. You tend to
Mm-hmm.
downplay or at least undervalue the the difficulty of it for other people.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I have no idea how hard it is to monetize because in my mind, attention is monetizable.
Right,
If
right,
you
right.
like, and if you, and the worst position for a person to be in, I think, and this probably happens more to girls than guys, is to
Yeah.
be in a position where you get a lot of attention, but you have no skills and nothing to show for.
Yeah.
Like imagine having all these fans,
Yeah. Like some of these
and
girls with 100,000 followers or whatever, but they get nothing for it.
yeah, so that's what do they got to do? You know, OnlyFans.
Yeah, yeah.
Pretty
Fans
much,
only,
you know,
whatever.
that's where it is now. But
Yeah,
that my point about that is, look, even with that, that's not even anything novel. I mean, half the
yeah, yeah, yeah,
population has what they're selling
yeah,
on
yeah.
OnlyFans, and that's what they have to do. But the general lesson from that is that
Mm,
there is, you know, if you get to a point where like I couldn't imagine 128,000 people follow me for no reason, or
yeah, yeah.
19,000 people being on my email list for no reason, or 100,000 people come to my site for no reason. They're
Right,
there
right,
because they get value, and it's just up to me to
right,
decide
right.
what part of that value I want to charge for.
Mm,
But there's so many options. It's just like my joke is, print money, right? Like,
right.
if I decide I need 20 grand, like, I mean, I can
Mm,
come up with 10 easy ways, because the challenge is, what are the two challenges of making money? Having, putting something together that people won't pay for, and then finding people who won't pay for it.
yep.
Man, I've got those two things locked out and in place. So what is there left to even think about or worry about?
Yeah, because I feel like most people, especially with if they have that creative mindset or whatever, so a lot of times they'll just get creative ideas. Creative ideas. Here's an idea. Here's an idea. Here's an idea. But then they're missing those elements of make it something that people can grab hold of and find them and monetize it. And so the having what you offer in that mindset of boom, just find the people, make them pay for it, then it it turns that creativity into money instead of just frustration, because otherwise people just get frustrated and they turn into like self victimhood and everything else, because it's like, oh,
Yeah,
nobody appreciates me.
and it's it's a lot, man. Like, I'm fortunate, maybe not so fortunate, I don't know. Because I've been authentic and real with my audience, from the
Yeah.
beginning, and how I've built it out and the way I've done it. I have a lot of different options.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a matter of which options do I take.
Right, right.
Uh, but all options are good. I mean, because the thing is this, right? If I monetize 1% of my audience, we'll just round it to 100,000 and make the math easier, right?
Mm.
If I monetize 1% of my audience, that's 1,000 people, and I get them to spend $100 a pop over the course of a year. That's a six-figure year, right? And that's
Right.
really easy. And it's easy because there's so many different pieces of value that I offer and can distribute and give.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I don't, and I guess that's kind of the thing with you that most that is easy to find, like, wow, shouldn't I be able to do that? Because you have this eclectic background, but then you turn it into this entrepreneurial thing on the internet, mostly with Twitter, and it's like an amazing thing, but it's just, I guess, your gift.
Well, a gift, not a gift, because look, I wouldn't wish my childhood on
Yeah, yeah,
anyone,
yeah.
right? But that childhood fuels articles. That childhood is kind of
Right,
what
right.
developed my grit. That childhood is
Mm-hmm.
is what gives me a lot of material to write about.
Right, right.
But here's the thing, why is not everyone else from our background doing something similar? Well, because you only hear survivor's bias. Every
Right,
person
right,
like me, there's easily 10 to 20,000 guys, if not more,
right,
who
right.
they don't come and monetize their life. They don't get on the internet and do this thing. No, it doesn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
They end up in a we're not even talking about the people who end up like on the worst end of it.
The
Most
crackheads.
people don't do this, right?
Yeah.
Most people don't do this, and I think there is, timing and ethic, and there's a lot of luck. I never downplay the role of luck in my
Right,
life.
right.
And I think about luck probably in a way that a lot of people don't. I think about the
Mm-hmm.
thing, I'm lucky to have the personality I have, because if
Right,
I
right.
was like some introverted shy kid, this would be much more difficult. if
Yeah.
if I if I had an IQ of 100, probably not as eloquent and able to create stuff. If I
Yeah.
was like 5'4", maybe I don't ever step foot in a boxing ring. Okay,
Yeah.
so there's a lot, and with that IQ of 100, I don't study physics. There's
Yeah.
a lot that's beyond my control that I'll never
Right, right.
forget, because it's easy to focus on the things beyond my control that uh that were hindrances, and I think a lot of
Mm.
people do that. I'm very much at a mindset of focus on the things beyond my control that help me,
Mm.
and by doing so, I never stop being grateful.
Mm. Yeah, I guess I, it's easy to rationalize everything, and I guess I hate to kind of like try to figure out how to like say like, well, but how do you feel? But it but I like when I've gone through some, I guess, hard things in life, it's like there's a deep feeling with it, and I'm like, I want to sit with that feeling and let it carve me a little bit. And I feel like that's something that sounds like you learned to do after a while too, especially if you went through your ups and downs of heavyweight boxing and everything else. Like that's got to give you some deep seated like this is how had some big ups and big downs, and using that to really sharpen yourself and sculpt yourself mentally.
Well, here's the thing, I don't what do I call it? I call it an unflinchingly close relationship with reality, right?
Yeah.
I've never had and this is one of those things, right? That there's that background coming up again.
Mm,
I never had the luxury of believing in nonsense. I never had the luxury of thinking that I was ever going to be safe. I mean, I was probably, that I just never got a chance to feel that way. I think about it
mm,
sometimes a lot about I never felt safe at home growing up, never felt
mm.
safe in the neighborhood. I mean, safety was a rare thing. So
Right.
what does that create? Aside from a lot of stress and issues you got to deal with later in life,
Mm.
that also makes you very allergic to BS. Any
Right.
type of nonsense, anything that seems to run counter to reality,
Right.
you don't get to indulge it. You're
Mm-hmm.
not allowed to,
Right.
right? So that is how it worked for me.
Mm.
I never, I get to sit. I have to sit with these feelings. I have to look at them. I have to learn from them. The minute I start to run away, man, I'm dead.
Mm.
I'm ruined. I can't do
Right.
that.
Yeah. I guess I don't know. The only other thing that like I guess really interested me when I was like doing some a little bit of preparation for this, other than well, it's like okay, when you went through that last boxing match, um, I went back and I looked at that, and then I realized not just from the videos talking about it, but I just realized that you were facing a guy who's in his corner was Freddie Roach. And for me, like, okay, I'm not a professional boxer, of course, but for me, that would have been the most intimidating thing. But
uh,
I never heard you talk about that. And what was
well,
that
well,
scene that you
well,
had
here's the
Freddie Roach in
thing.
the other guy's corner?
Nah, it was just cool to meet him. The only thing I remember about Freddie is he came back and he was like looking at us wrap our hands so we didn't pull any nonsense. I mean,
Yeah.
he wasn't
Mr.
the most
Detail.
affable. He wasn't the most affable guy, and he shouldn't have been. He was there to help his fighter beat me.
Yeah.
But that moment, I mean, that's a really interesting moment in my life because I remember
Yeah.
I didn't really care about losing, right? I
Mm-hmm.
lost before, whatever, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
what I cared about was the fact that they paid me and now they were not going to pay me anymore, and
Yeah.
I was going to have to figure out what I was going to do for money, and then that
Yeah.
led to some really interesting and wonderful developments in my life. But I do remember even at that moment I was hurting and I was embarrassed or whatever, right? But I remember saying this is going to be the best thing that ever happened to me at one point, and
Right. Right.
it
Right.
was because I would not if I had won that fight. I like to think about things. If I had won that fight, maybe I don't re-enroll in school for that because I took that semester of school off.
Right.
Maybe I
Right.
don't re-enroll in school, and
Mm.
then I don't finish my degree because I was on scholarship and I only had one semester. I could only take one semester off before I lost my
Mm-hmm.
scholarship
Right. Right.
that I really worked hard to earn too. Um,
Mm.
and maybe now with COVID going on, I just
Right.
lose
Right.
now, or that's my main source of income. I don't, and there are no fights, so I don't spend any of the time that I've spent building up to where I could just, because
Right.
I mean, this is a far like a far better life than when I was a professional boxer. I make more money. I'm not injured. I can do more, see
You
more,
don't have
have
to get punched in the face so much.
right. Like that is, and then that's not even the worst part, because getting
Yeah.
punched is getting punched, right? Whatever,
Yeah,
right?
it's the game.
Uh, the hard part, Ray Lewis said it best, man. When
Mm,
Ray Lewis was talking about his retirement and
mm,
everything, he's like, you gotta understand something, man. You guys get Sunday for free. I would play for free. I love the game that much, but you're paying me for is Sunday through Saturday, the
yeah, all the
2 days,
practice and
the
work.
training, all the tape. Yeah, that
Right.
is I mean, that's a
It's a
miserable
grind.
life. So
Yeah.
hard and it's repetitive. It's just
Mm,
repetitive because that's what it's got to be. It has to be repetitive.
right.
You don't have time to think in there. You have to be able to just do these things and do them quicker than the other guy when an opening
Right, right,
presents
right.
itself. Take it, lest you
Mm,
find yourself letting someone stick around and giving them a chance to win.
right.
So this is just I really enjoy my life. Every now
Yeah,
and then
yeah,
I think
awesome.
about going back to fight, and then I'm like, well, then I got then I'd have to train, and then
Yeah,
I'd have to spend 4 to 6 hours of my day in a gym
yeah,
minimum. You know what I can do with 4 to 6 hours today? That's a post, man. That's
yeah,
like
yeah,
that's a lot of non-combat work. Like
yeah,
where I
yeah,
don't get hit. Hmm.
yeah. Um, so now it's like your main thing is making Twitter engagement and internet engagement into potentially money. And well, and one thing that I find, really valuable and intuitive with all that is that I feel like more and more people need to just say, okay, I figured out how to do this. It could be make a salad, or I figured out how to do this, get 100,000 Twitter followers and whatever else. And more people need to figure out how to say, okay, this is some stuff that I'm good at, put it out on the internet, whether that's going to be promotional to build a brand or connections or charge this and that money for certain things. More and more people need to do that just because that's the community in the world that we're in now. uh, and that's really what your kind of thing is now. uh, so how is that life now, and how can people kind of follow that path to turn their creative ideas and things they've learned into to money?
You gotta pay somehow, right? You're gonna,
Right, right.
what have I paid? Because what are my sources of income? I write.
Yep.
Um, I do advertising for people.
Mm,
And I sell books on Amazon, and I have some affiliate program, but that is a secondary, or some affiliate income. That's all secondary from my writing. Like I write the articles to drive people to buy whatever.
mm,
And but at the end of the day, you gotta have. I would tell people to start building their story and make that
right, right,
and
right.
make themselves the hero of that story.
Yeah,
Because my path, if you want to know my path, I can't speak for anyone else. It's just my
yeah,
path.
yeah,
I put like I could never do anything ever again in my life, and I
yeah,
would be able to pull many stories from my
yeah,
life, many perspectives, and be okay. I wouldn't do that. But the point is that we'll say we'll use 30. 30 is a good age. I'm 35 now. Say
mm,
the first 30 years of my life, I was building everything that I use and do now.
right, right, right.
So you can at least put 4 years in. Go learn. I tell guys all the time. You want to build a brand, but get good at something. I don't care what you get good at. Just it's got one condition. Or it's got to be something that is not like an internet money skill. If you want to go my route, like I tell guys, go get ripped up in the gym. That counts, and then tell people how you
Yeah,
did that. Maybe learn a language or two. Okay,
yeah, yeah,
maybe pick up an instrument, get
yeah,
really good at chess, like anything.
yeah,
You can grow or right. This is where it does count on the internet. Grow a YouTube channel to 100,000 subscribers. Grow a
right, right,
Twitter account to like there are many things you can do.
right,
Uh, but here's the thing: what does that take? That takes time. That takes investment. That takes sacrifice.
yeah,
A lot of people don't want to bump into the wall. They don't want to put the work in. Uh, and it's not so much that they don't want to put the work in. They don't want to put the work in without certainty of an outcome, and
yeah,
nothing is
yeah.
guaranteed. They want to know how long it's going to take and how hard they're going to work, and exactly what to do when something goes wrong, and it
Right,
doesn't
right, right.
work that way.
Yeah, and I don't know. I feel like the thing people need to learn with that mindset is learn how to um, value everything that you get out of it, where it's not always like, you get $50 or $1,000 from this, but value, being able to talk to someone like you, value being able to talk with the people, and even just go through that failure process to where it sharpens you and you get better. Because on the other hand, if you're
Yeah,
always like, I gotta do it this way, then you just kind of stay weak the whole time. But it makes a person
exactly,
stronger. Yeah, yeah,
exactly. It's really interesting. Um, approach, because you gotta have a really, that's the other thing, I have a stomach for uncertainty. There's not a lot of people like
Mm,
this. Once again,
right,
there's
right.
that luck. I have to have that gene. You gotta have two genes for this too to kind of help. One, I really, man, I'm just not, I can listen to people and obviously follow orders, that's why I'm not in
Yeah,
prison,
yeah,
but
yeah,
like I would prefer not to.
yeah.
And I'm willing to do the work to not have to do it. Like I want
Right,
my
right,
income to scale based on the effort I put in. I'm not
right,
gonna
right, right.
bust my ass so the company can make more money, but you still kicking me like $25 an hour or a flat salary. That's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
gonna happen. And the other thing is you gotta have a stomach for risk. That
Mm,
this is a kill what you eat world. And then no one
mm,
pays my health insurance. No one
right, right.
takes my tax out of my check. I got to make sure I pay those on my own.
Yeah, yeah.
If I don't make the money, all right, I can't ask my boss. I can't just put it in a motion to get a check. Everything I do has to
Hmm.
generate a return, and it's a very uncomfortable world for many people.
Yeah,
This
yeah.
is not, especially when you get started. You got to, I'm so happy I'm past the days where I got to think, like I don't think about the basics. Like I don't think about my groceries, my gas, my rent. Guys just
Mm.
know I have it, right? But that takes a while.
Well,
Like because
yeah.
I remember, I was gonna say
Go
I
ahead.
remember when I was starting my tutoring business, for
Mm,
example, and I
mm.
was counting up the money I had at the end of the month, taking out my drawer and paying like a stripper with all these 20s from
Yeah,
everyone who taught me. It takes
yeah, yeah.
time to build that up. It's a
Right,
journey.
right, right. Mm. Yeah, and I don't know what you think of this, but like a lot of people who talk about, side hustles or starting your own business, they'll there's different perspectives on it. Some people want to be like, oh, I want to quit right now so I can be my own boss today, and then they do that, and then they go broke. But I don't know if the better strategy is like, okay, if you have a decent day job that's at least paying the bills, then really figure out what time you can put into it every day, whether it's an extra hour, 2, 3, 4 hours a day to put into your sort of side hustle thing to where it builds up, and then eventually that will replace and be able to pay the bills.
Exactly, and that takes time.
Yeah,
Everybody want to eat now. Right, want to
yeah,
eat now. They're not willing to be patient because man, like I just think about some of the situations and side hustles. And not even side hustle, man. Because remember, I fought through
startups.
I fought through college when I went
Yeah,
back
yeah.
the second time when I graduated. And
Mm,
even before I got paid enough to do that, I worked at a bank and went to school and was drilling in the National Guard and
wow.
still, build my site up and writing.
Mm,
Right? Like I want to tell you,
mm,
I want to tell people just keep it up, but I know that because it's not a clear path. That's why.
right,
Hey,
right.
look, if more people, if it was easy, more people would do it, and it is easy. It just takes time, and you got to stumble a little.
Well, yeah, and I know we got to wrap it up in a minute, but I think like a lot of people, like sometimes I don't believe in what we call laziness. I think the real issue is vision. So in other words, if somebody sees this is exactly what I want, and these are the exact steps to get it, they'll just do it. But the problem is people
Right.
don't usually have that vision. So, and I guess that's kind of what you try to help people do, is to help people establish that vision, because once they see, okay, if I do XYZ, then I'll have six figures, or if I do XYZ, I'll, grow and be stronger and be a better person for it.
Yeah. If only it was that dude. Like I said, you could give a motherfucker a map. You can give somebody a map,
Right, right.
and the map will tell them exactly where to go.
Yeah.
But it takes them over the river, through the woods, down into
Yeah.
through the mountains, through a pass. You got to fight some trolls, and they'll be like, "But all you got, but if you follow it, it's guaranteed."
Yeah, pot of gold, 10 of the
And
rainbow,
they
but
still ain't gonna do it. That
right,
ain't
right,
that
right.
ain't.
Well, what are your future plans, by the way, before we wrap it up? Like,
My
I know
future
you were
plans.
doing a clock company for a little bit, and you were
I
doing
was,
going to Europe.
and then I decided I'm not interested in selling physical merchandise. It's just, and I
Okay.
actually have one of the clocks here sitting right here. I just, it's cool. Um, I was in Europe. I was in Europe for we were there from November to March and came back early because the COVID thing happened. But I'll
Mm.
probably go back. Got to marry my girlfriend first because that'll make
Oh,
everything easier because she's Portuguese. That's why we went to Portugal. So
okay. Congratulations.
yeah, well, it's just when it happens for sure,
Yeah,
for
yeah.
sure. But so doing that, right now, I'm working on just expanding the content on my website,
Mm.
working on my book deal, building everything out with some publishing, my
Oh,
publishing,
nice.
with some membership components in my site. Really, just I'm setting myself up to make more money with less effort,
There you
pretty
go.
much. Like, and I can do with that done, I can go. I can focus on what I want to focus on, which is
Mm-hmm.
I love a life of learning. If it was
Mm-hmm.
up to me, I'd just study languages all day, maybe work out 2 to 3 hours, go to the
Yeah.
opera at night, have good food. I don't drink.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm a person of learning, but the cool thing about my life is that it also
Mm-hmm.
puts me in a position to have a lot to help a lot of people, make an impact. So, and I can't ever really ignore that. So I like
Right.
so really just freedom. Right now I'm still working, right? And I
Right.
like
Right.
working, but I
Right. Right.
want to be able to not think about it.
Right. Right. Just do it for the sake of doing it, not necessarily because you have to.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So before we wrap it up completely, how can people find you? Where should they look, and what should they be looking for when they go to your website or your Twitter or anything else?
I was just going on the internet, type Ed Latimore, man. I'm Ed Latimore on Twitter, Ed Latimore on Instagram, Ed Latimore on Facebook, EdLatimore.com. It's my website. Everything is Ed Latimore, man. I'm a brand, man. Right?
No, you do a good job. You're lucky to have a less common name because that's it sucks because if anybody searches
That's
my
true.
name,
If
they
I
got to
was
deal
like
with like
Matt, if I was Matt Smith or something, that would suck.
yeah. Yeah. So like like for people like us with more common names, we have to like build up other things to search because
And
there's
then you
like
got you got
a
to deal with
billion
that.
Millers. Yeah. Cool. All right, Ed. Well, it was great talking to you. I'm glad we finally, were able to work out the scheduling and everything.
Oh yeah, for sure,
And
man. Really, really grateful that you were able to hop on this evening with me. I really appreciate that.
yeah, yeah. All right. So yeah, we'll see you around and hopefully talk again sometime in the future. And we'll keep following you on Twitter and all that.
All right, thank you, man. You have a good one.
You too. Thanks a lot.
Thanks.